Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Joining me today on Better Than I Found It is reigning U.S. Open champion Wyndham Clark. Wyndham details the turning points of this year's U.S. Open victory, the ups and downs of his career, and the recent work he's done on the mental side of the game that's really helped his game. We also discuss the upcoming Ryder Cup in Rome, Italy, Wyndham's first opportunity to play for the United States in the Ryder Cup. Finally, Wyndham talks about his faith and how it's guided his journey all the way through. I really enjoyed this interview. It's always nice having a former player on, but this one particularly so because of how far Wyndham has come. Thank you. Okay, Better Than I Found It listeners, join me in welcoming the reigning U.S. Open champion, Wyndham Clark, to the podcast. Hey, Wyndham, I bet it never gets old hearing U.S. Open champion when you're being introduced, does it?
No, the first time I got nervous after winning the U.S. Open was the next week at the Travelers Championship. That was only 4 days after winning, and I kind of didn't really think about it. But as I was on the tee and they announced my name, I totally didn't even cross my mind that they're going to do that. And then they said, "You're U.S. Open champion," and everyone goes. I was playing with Max Homa and Justin Thomas, and prior to me winning the U.S. Open, they were bigger household names, and I had a way bigger ovation than them. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I got pretty nervous on that tee ball. But to answer your question, it never gets old.
Well, you can't hide from a U.S. Open win. That's pretty amazing. But a lot of people probably aren't aware that you and I had a history going way back before I became, before I was at Baylor and before you were even at Oklahoma State. I just kind of want to briefly talk about that real quick. It's, every year at Oklahoma State when I was there, I'd always kind of try to figure out the best players that I thought I had a chance to sign, but also that were great players. And I don't really remember exactly why I knew you'd be in Tulsa, but you were going to be at the Golf Club of Oklahoma at an AJGA event, just an open AJGA, nothing major. And I'd heard a lot about you. Can you remember, did you tell me you would be at that event, or did I just pick it out? I don't know how I did that.
I don't think, honestly, I don't remember. I do remember sending, my dad was pretty proactive because he played college sports and he knew, he's like, well, let's write letters to coaches, and we kind of had a universal letter, sent it out and said, hey, watch us. And so I think maybe some of that happened. But I do remember you were the most intimidating coach, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I do remember knowing that I wanted to watch you there. And I'll remember it was a par 3 and your dad had walked ahead, and I knew you'd be in the next group. So I kind of thought, okay. And then this man was walking toward me, and he was walking at a brisk pace. And your dad always had so much energy, but I'd never met him. And he came up and he shook hands. He says, Coach McGraw, I'm Randall Clark, and that's my son back there. And I said, okay, Randall, I can't talk to you. I hope you know that. And he goes, yes, sir, I know. It's fine. And then I saw you walk up that fairway after you hit that tee shot to the par 3. And I thought, guy looks like a defensive back. He doesn't look like a golfer. It's like you were put together. And I thought, man, I ought to go ahead and at least recruit him for the football team. Maybe Mike Gundy needs another defensive back.
I don't know if I was that big, but
well, you were in shape.
Maybe compared to some of the golfers, I look bigger.
Yeah, I mean, remember I just got through recruiting Ricky Fowler. He wasn't that big, and there were some smaller ones. So, but I do know this: you had quite a presence about you on the golf course, and you had a lot of fire, which I was okay with. You had you were kind of fiery on the golf course and had a lot of Why was I intimidating? I answer that right now. How was I intimidating?
Well, here's what I will say: is the other coaches, when they would watch me, they kind of just had. They just had this. They didn't. I think there's two things. I think because you were the coach of Oklahoma State, just makes it intimidating in itself. And then you seem to, a lot of times when you watched me, were wearing black, and then you had glasses on, and you would just stand there like this, right behind me, no facial expression, and just watch me. And I always knew I wanted to be a cowboy, and so all those combined, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so intimidating. And, obviously come to find out you're the least, not no offense, but you're the least intimidating. You're the most welcoming man and coach that, is in college golf. But it was just funny when I was little, any other coach didn't really scare me, but you did.
I'm glad now I've got that on you. I didn't know I had that on you. I wish I'd have played that card. I didn't play it. But no, I decided that moment when I saw you play it, and I probably only saw you play 5 or 6 holes that day, but I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and recruit this kid. I made a visit out to Denver, and I went to your high school. I went to Cherry Hills. I went and met a bunch of people. I spent about 2.5 days out there finding out about you. And the more I found out, the more I liked. And I just knew that I thought you'd be a really great player. And I got you on a visit. I think you came in on the same visit with Jordan Niebrugge.
Yep.
And uh, honestly, I normally remember everything, but I don't remember exactly when you committed. But I remember thinking, if I could get both of these guys to sign, this would be a great, great class. And when did you commit? Was it on the visit?
No, I think it was shortly after, because I went and did kind of in a similar time frame. I went and visited Texas, which was the other competing school, and you guys. And then, I wanted to make sure I did my due diligence, and I saw the two schools I was most interested in, and both were great experiences. But I felt a little more drawn to Oklahoma State. So I think after my visit, shortly after, maybe a week or two, I thought on it and said, that's where I want to go.
Good. Well, and then I remember we played um, within that year. We played the regional at in Colorado, and you came out and watched us play out there. And I think we won the regional, and that was the year we were hosting the national championship at Karsten Creek. Or maybe you hadn't committed at that point, but you were there at the regional. I do remember that. I think you had committed.
Yeah, I think so too. I came
Yeah.
out to watch you guys. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so and then the rest is sort of history. You got to Oklahoma State, struggled. We did the whole red shirt thing. I got let go. You, and then all of the rest of that has been hashed out a lot of times. I hadn't really ever talked about, how the first time I saw you when we got all that, but um, it's been a whirlwind year for you this year. This has been crazy, Wyndham. I mean, could you have ever imagined it happening this quickly? You won your first PGA Tour event at Wells Fargo. You won your first major championship, the U.S. Open in Los Angeles. You finished third in the FedEx Cup. You're on the Ryder Cup team next week, and your official world golf ranking is 10th. All of this happened pretty quick, Wyndham. Talk about it. I mean, all of this happened pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how, you know, God works in your life and how you have a plan and what you think and how you want it to go. And I thought stuff like this would have happened earlier in my career. But what's so amazing is his plan. It's always so much greater than you could have ever imagined. And, my first 4.5 years on the PGA Tour, I didn't have the success that I wanted. I kept my card. I was always between about 60th and 100th on the FedEx, which is, it's very good. But in my expectations and what I thought I could be was not, I just wasn't quite satisfied. And I felt like I left a lot out there and was always feeling like I was on the other side of momentum and always felt like I was underperforming. And so this year when I kind of made this decision to really focus on the mental game, but like really do it and buy into what someone was going to tell me and say, okay, I'm going to do everything you tell me, regardless of how much I push back or how weird it is or how much I don't want to do it. I'm just going to do it and see, because I was at that breaking point to where I didn't want to continue doing what I was doing because it was getting the same results. And so then when I started doing that, I did start to see a lot of progression in my game. And, I made like 19 straight cuts and was trending in such a great direction. And when I finally broke through and won Wells Fargo, that was honestly almost, I would almost say that's bigger than winning the major in my career, because that was something, you obviously you dream about winning majors and you dream about Ryder Cups and you dream about all that stuff. But to get your first PGA Tour win, especially for for me, because I had such a monkey on my back and it was almost like this black cloud that followed me. And anytime I was in contention, I seemed to always stumble. And so to win there kind of, I mean, that was the biggest point of the year. And from then on, it just obviously gave me the confidence. And, when I got into contention, or now that I'm in marquee groups or in these places, I'm just so much more relaxed and calm because I did get that monkey off my back. And I feel like I can play a little bit more free. And then obviously it led to winning a US Open. And then, the craziest thing about all of this is my only goal that was result oriented the whole year, which we try to stay away from results, was we wanted to try to get to the Tour Championship. So winning wasn't really in that thought. Winning a major was not in the thought. The Ryder Cup wasn't even on our radar. It was like, let's just try to get to the Tour Championship. And what are we going to do that's going to get us there? And that was all these mental goals. And so now looking at it, we did that and then some. So it's been an amazing year, and obviously my breakout year. And I'm hoping this is one of many, many great years.
Well, I hope so too, for that fact. I really do. But I'm going to say this. A lot of people look at the US Open and they'll point to a lot of different things that happened in that final round. I watched every minute of it. Obviously, I was pulling for a tie between you and Ricky and a playoff, and I could accept any result. But you did an amazing job that day of handling a lot of stuff that was happening. And I heard your post tournament press conference where you talked about on that par five where it looked like you were going to make a par birdie and you ended up having to get up and down for bogey. And you said that was actually momentum because I kept myself in the tournament, without, if you make a double there or a triple, I mean, things go backwards quickly. But I'm going to point to the day before. I think on number 17, I think that's when you won the golf tournament. Now, that's a completely hot take and you're going to disagree, but talk about this the day before when you hit it in that hazard or that penalty area on 17, because that's the most, it was so obvious to me because you didn't get all upset. You didn't get angry. You just thought, what's the wisest thing I can do right now? Now you tell me what was going through your head, because I think that was a big moment.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you either. I think if this was if we were in that position my first 2 years on tour, I would have made a dumb decision there. I would have overridden my caddy and said, nope, I'm going to try to pull this off, because in those moments, what's so hard is, you obviously in your mind are trying to keep yourself in the present, and you're walking down, you hit the fairway on 17 right there, and you're thinking, okay, I got a chance to maybe make birdie and par 18, whatever, we're going to be tied for the lead going to the US, the final round. And your mind goes ahead, and then something happens to where you're like, oh no. And your mind starts going so fast, and there's people around you and cameras, and it's so hard to control your thoughts. And you think, okay, I can do this. And yeah, it's just amazing after, being on the PGA Tour and then being in situations like at Wells Fargo where I did have some adversity, and you always do in a round, and especially on a weekend in big tournaments. And so I got in there, and the lie was not good. I could have maybe gotten it on the green or just short, but also could have done, a bunch of bad things. And I just thought to myself, and I said, all right, well, this sucks. I was mad that I even hit the shot because it was so dark. We honestly, on TV, I don't know if you could see, but we could have called it, Ricky and I talked about, we could have called it on 17 tee box or fairway. It was so dark. And I truly think I hit that bad shot because it was hard to see, and you just didn't trust. There was no trust in it, and I just came out of it. And yeah, and I decided, I said, you know what? My short game's great. If we just drop where it crossed, we can get up and down for bogey. Sure, now we're not going to maybe be in the final group. We have to maybe try to birdie 18, but this doesn't kill our round. And yeah, I mean, I just think that was a veteran play and decision. And in that moment, obviously, it might seem, as a spectator, that's the obvious play. But in the moment, it's so hard as a player because you always think you can try to pull off the shot. And, both my caddy and I are like, nope, this is the play. And then what's so huge on that, for just anyone listening and learning is it's amazing how making a bogey is okay. And especially when you make a bogey where you gain the momentum back, and that's what I said on hole 8 the next day, is I actually gained momentum and felt like I got on the right side of momentum when I got that up and down, because that was huge. It's like, hey, we just saved a shot. That's massive. So then when I went to hole 18, I felt like I was still had my chest up and I could walk with that confidence. And then that produced a great shot at 18 and a birdie. And so, it totally changes the momentum going into Sunday versus I try to do something dumb. You make a double, and next thing you know, on 18, you squeak in a par, even a bogey, and now the tournament seems out of your reach. So, yeah, that was definitely a pivotal point.
I just haven't heard many people talk about it. And it was so obvious to me when it happened because it kept you in that momentum world. It kept you in a good spot. You didn't make a dumb decision. And I don't think you used to make dumb decisions. I think you made emotional decisions a
For
lot of
sure.
times. And I think you're making less and less emotional decisions for sure. And I'm going to point to one stat that I think is pretty good. I've looked at all your stats for fun, but you've got a bounce back stat that's fifth on the tour. And I think that shows emotion, less emotion and emotional maturity compared to maybe either early years on the tour or certainly when you were a younger college player. So would you agree you're less emotional and it allows you to be able to bounce back better or not?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna make my caddy John super happy because his one goal that he wanted for me the whole year, honestly, was that bounce back stat. He said, Wyndham, my previous years, you're too emotional. You let something, it could even be a par on a par 5, and then I'd follow it up with a bogey or something, or obviously a bogey or double, and followed up with more of that. And so to be fifth, I mean, I just think that's a testament of me trying to take the emotions out of it and learning to, stay more in the present, and then also believe that I can, good things are going to happen. And just because you make one bogey does not mean you're going to start making bogeys. It's an anomaly. Something happened. It's golf, and you can make it up on whatever holes. And so that's huge. I mean, I totally agree with you. And as you know, coaching me for a year, and watching me play for many years, that I would have more than likely in the past followed that up with future bad play. So.
Well, so I don't want to confuse, especially some of my younger listeners, it and my players and my team. It it's okay to be intense, and you are very intense. You're intense on a golf course all the time. I didn't see you intense too much outside of golf. You were a pretty laid back kind of guy, but in golf, you're pretty intense. If I could separate intensity from emotionalism, then you're still going to be high on that bounce back. You're still intense. You've got something you want to accomplish. Do you think there's a difference? Because I do. I think they're different. Two of them are.
Well, there's a lot of 100%. I mean, obviously, Tiger's the greatest to ever play. John Rahm is number 1 or number 2 in the world. Myself, I mean, these guys that I just mentioned, including myself, we run hot. And the biggest thing is obviously you try not to show outward emotion, but when you do run hot, and, for me playing other sports, if you turn the ball over, then you just go play great defense. Or in other sports, you just go hit someone really hard and you go hustle. In golf, it's so counterintuitive. But the biggest thing that I think I used to do is I would get mad and I would blame myself, and I would be mad at myself. And then that turns inwardly and it's very negative, versus I think, someone like Tiger and John, and now I'm learning and getting better at this, is you get mad at what happened, but you don't turn it inwardly and you go, okay, I'm mad that happened, but I'm not blaming myself. And then you have kind of this whole 5-second rule where you're just mad for 5 seconds. And then you go, okay, now I'm moving on. And now let's try to think what's the best way for me to get back on track mentally. and try to get myself in the best frame of mind for the next shot. And so I think it's huge. I think, all the best players that I can think of do kind of run hot and are always on that teeter, point, because that's what makes them great. But they never turn inwardly and blame themselves, and that's what's I think is a huge difference.
And I think that's probably what a lot of kids confused what Tiger was doing, and they would end up getting really angry and slamming clubs, but they carry it to the next shot. He never did,
Yeah.
and you're learning to not do that anymore, and it's obvious in your results that are so much better. Um, I mean, you always knew this would happen. You always believed you were going to be a great player. I know you did. You told me that. Um, what and you've worked diligently on mental game, like it's really been a focus of yours. I think it's just as important as having a great short game or being a great putter or a great driver of the golf ball. It's like if you're not good mentally, that's a skill you need to work on, and you've done that. What do you think? How do you sustain this? How do you keep it from now? Because the expectations have gone up, Wyndham. They're higher than they were before. For at least ours are of you. Certainly
Yeah.
yours probably are. Go ahead. How do you sustain that?
Well, golf is really more of a game of skills, and you know, you get to the highest level, and the difference between a top player and a guy that's just keeping his card, or a guy that's not even on the PGA Tour, is he has more skills than the next guy. And skills isn't always just he has a better short game, better swing, whatever. Skills, like you said, is he's a better mental game. And I felt like if I looked at my game, let's say 2-3 years ago, I had a great short game and I was a great putter. I was of the top skill wise in that category in the world. I was, and I had distance. My weaknesses were fairways, iron game, and mentally. And over those next 2 years, I got increasingly better with a club change and equipment change, and kind of a coaching change where I just owned my own swing. My ball striking got significantly better. So all my skill levels were increasing to, I think, one of the top player levels, but I was missing in that mental game skill area. And so it's so it's a process. And I think, I actually just talked about it with John Rahm. He even asked me, he's like, what's been the difference when you've had a breakout year? And I said, honestly, I worked on the one skill in the toolbox that I neglected or didn't want to work on. And that's been my kind of always the thorn in my game. And so, obviously you have more success, like you said, breeds more expectations. But I think if you continue to just do the things that made me successful, that's all you can focus on and control. And, I got into a little bit of a rut. I'd say after I won the US Open, I'd have a decent first couple rounds, and then I'm quickly thinking about results. And, that's the great thing about golf is it gets you right back into where, it humbles you and shows you where you need to be and what you need to work on. And that's what I noticed after the US Open was I was focusing on those results again. And what made me successful was not focusing on results and focusing on, my mental goals and my process and doing that the best I can and letting the results take care of themselves. And so I started getting back into, okay, let's focus on that stuff. And I started playing good golf again. And so it's just amazing. Golf has a lot of ebbs and flows, and you just got to go with them. And, my expectations will never be, or your expectations on me will never be as high as what mine are on myself. So, I'm just going to keep working on what has made me successful. And that's, reading a lot. That's doing meditations. That's praying a lot. That's living in this realm of gratitude. That's working on, or focusing on just process goals and not ever thinking about results. So, that's kind of my plan, and I'm just going to take it as it goes, and and then also celebrate what we've had this year, because it was an amazing year, and it was a multiple win season, a major win, and so yeah, I'm just in this great spot where mentally and physically I'm just really blessed and thankful to be here.
That is a great assessment, and we didn't gloss over it, but we didn't really talk about it too much. No instructor. That's pretty rare nowadays. I actually love it. I love it a lot. Um, why is it beneficial for you to do that? I've heard you talk to some people and say some reasons why, but tell me what's beneficial for you to sort of go on your own like that.
Well, you know as good as anyone my kind of upbringing. I didn't really have a swing coach until, I mean, realistically, probably 15 or 16. Like I maybe saw a guy here and there, but like a lot of great college, junior and college players and professionals, I mean, they started seeing someone at a young age. They always worked with them. They'd go see them once or twice a month, and then maybe once a week. And I didn't have that, so I had this pretty athletic, unique swing for the longest time, and then which was the right thing. People said, "Hey, you got to get the swing better and more technically sound if you want to be as good as you want to be." And I don't disagree with them, but what happened is it took away my athletic ability and natural instincts, and so I got very technical, and uh, I started focusing so much more on golf swing and wasn't concerned about the most important thing about the game, which was getting the ball in the hole, regardless of how it looks and what the shot shape is like. And so when I got on tour, I worked with great coaches. I mean, Jeff Smith is an amazing swing coach, and Boyd Summerhays is also an amazing swing coach. But what I found was I was too reliant on them. And on the PGA Tour, nowadays you get a guy on retainer, and that guy comes out almost every week or every other week, and he's there watching you multiple hours, in a week and each day, and you hit a bad shot, and you ultimately go, well, what did I do there? And then you have a bad day, and you go, well, what did I do? And you don't own and know. You're not like, well, okay, I did this or this, and I just got so reliant on them to where when I was out on the golf course, I didn't know how to hit shots again. I didn't know how to, dissect and fix it on the go. And so when I kind of decided to go away from it, that's what I gained back. And not to say that I'll always be on my own. There's probably going to come a time when I need to have some advice from somebody. But technically, my swing in the last 3-4 years has been very sound. I don't take it super inside. I'm not doing my club face is in a good spot. I'm not doing anything glaringly bad, but I just wasn't producing the golf shots that I thought I could do. And I think that just came down to not owning it. And so what I did is I said, all right. And my caddy, John, and he goes, I want you to hit all the shots. And so we do this drill where I have, we call it the 6-ball drill, which is 3 balls to the right of center and 3 balls to the left. And that basically is small fade, medium fade, big fade, and draw, vice versa. And we'll just go through it on the range. And he goes, all right, hit me a medium draw, which would be the 2nd ball. Now hit me a 1 left ball, which is a small fade. And we would just constantly do that. And then I'd find my neutral. And then I'd go on the golf course. And from there, it's like, okay, let's say we're hitting 7-iron 190. And the pins, we need to fly at 190. That's a straight 190 standard golf swing. But then if the pin's 198 and we need to get it back there, that's a 1 or 2 ball right, which adds draw, little distance and draw to get it back there. And if it's a 182 pin and 8-iron doesn't get there, now we're hitting a 2 left or 3 left 7-iron, which cuts and takes off about 8 yards. And so that's when you really get into playing, and that's what I started doing. And then it's amazing. I was less technical, and my swing got better, my stats got better, and I started playing the game of golf. And then obviously your scores get better. So it's definitely unique. I don't think there's hardly any guys out on tour at all that don't work with somebody. But for me, it's been, the best year and a half of ball striking, and I really know my swing. When it's off in the middle of a round, I go, okay, I know what I'm doing, or I can feel it. And then I will ask my caddy, I said, am I aimed too far right, which typically happens? And he goes, yeah, I think you're too square. So I will open up, and if that doesn't work, then we go, all right, let's just play a big cut, and we'll get the round over with. Let's score as best we can, and then on the range, we'll go work on it. And that's just stuff that I wasn't doing before. And I'd suggest to anyone, even if you have a coach, it's not bad to have a coach. You just got to learn to own what you're doing with that coach, so that when you are under pressure in a tournament and you start hitting it bad, you know what to do. So,
Well, I love the advice, and I agree. It's okay to have an instructor. There's nothing wrong with it. But when a player of mine goes and takes a golf lesson, I'm fine with that. He doesn't know this, but I'm probably going to have a conversation with his instructor just to see what he's learning. But he's got to be able to articulate that to me when he gets back into Waco, and then show me that how it takes place on a golf course, how he owns it on a golf course. I mean, ultimately, you're an athlete, and you were definitely an athlete. You were a basketball player. I don't know what other sports you played, but I saw you play basketball. And an athlete wants to be athletic, right? It's hard to be athletic when you're holding on to the grip as tightly as you can, and you have no idea where the ball's going.
for sure.
Athleticism's out the window. So I think that's great advice, but I don't think it's for everybody either. Some people probably need a little more technical work. Some need less, whatever. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. So talk about that last round in Los Angeles, because, and I know you've talked about it a bunch. Is there anything you could say to me that was the turning point in that round? I saw what I thought looked like turning points. When did you win that golf tournament?
I think I won the golf tournament on the up and down on hole 8. I think Wyndham of even just a year ago, maybe even 6-7 months ago, would have lost the tournament on hole 8, because I was leading the tournament. I think I was 2 or 3 under in the round, or 2 under. I'm sitting there with a 4-iron into a par 5, left pin. If I hit it anywhere right of the flag, it's an easy up and down. And I go to 3 under, and I probably have I can't even remember, but a 2 or 3 shot lead at this point, and I'm just cruising. Hadn't really missed any shots, just going in the right direction. And then I pull the ball, and even then it almost covered. And if it covers, I go just long. It's still an easy up and down. I'd probably make birdie. And then I'm sitting there, and I have a tough lie, but we practiced over there, because you're going for the green with a 4-iron. You got to practice all the situations and the shots. And so we had practiced over there, and realistically, you had about I'd say 70 to 80% chance of having a decent lie to get it on the green. And in the practice round, we threw 6 or 7 balls randomly. And of those 6 or 7, only one, maybe even not even one, was in a bad spot. So walking up to it, we're like, okay, as long as we just miss one of those big bushes, we're just going to have a sandy lie, and we can get it on the green, try to make a 10, 15 footer. And if we don't, we keep going. And that lie was, it wasn't that bad of a lie, but the biggest thing was how I would come into the golf ball. So if we're playing a money game, or if it's a practice round, I sweep my foot like this to get into it. I move the bushes. I have now an easy shot, which is cheating, but it's what 98% of people would have done, to just kind of like, you get into the ball and you maybe move it to where you can hit it. But in a tournament, you can't do that. And obviously you shouldn't do it. And especially under those circumstances with the cameras there, you don't want to show any sign. Like I didn't want it to be scrutinized at all. And so I called over a rules official, and I said, how should I approach this ball? And he goes, well, how would you step into it? And I said, well, I would go in here, and I would set like this. And he goes, you can't sweep the grass like that. And I said, that's why I wanted you to come over here. He goes, you need to come in this way and make your stance, which by doing that, I then couldn't see the golf ball. Now, the lie was not bad to go through. I just couldn't see the ball. And so, me being me and always trying to pull off the shot, and especially a short game shot, I was like, I can still hit this close and make birdie. Hindsight 2020, I would have liked to probably not open the face and try to pull the shot off. I would have liked to just hit it on the green and go from there. And so I went to make the swing, and I couldn't see the ball, and I just went under the ball. And then that was one of those moments where I went from having a pretty, level heartbeat in my mind. My thoughts were pretty, not cluttered, to where now my heart is just racing and my mind is going so fast. And that's that right then when that happened and John and I talked and he said, Wyndham, let's just get the ball out. Who cares where it goes? Just get it out and we can get up and down for bogey. I got it out and it went over the green, and then I had a tough up and down. And I told myself, okay, Wyndham, let's think slow. We can get this up and down. And I just really try to take my emotions out of it. And really, my biggest thing is thinking slow. I mean, you can physically move fast, but as long as your mind is moving slow, it doesn't matter. And so getting that up and down, I regained that momentum. And I think if I really look back at it, I would say that's when John and I knew that I was ready to win a major. Um, and so pretty much after I handled that adversity, I knew I was going to be able to have a chance to win that tournament on the back nine. And it wasn't pretty. I was not hitting my irons well all week. I was driving it great and I was putting it great. My irons were horrendous. I'd say it's one of the worst iron tournaments I had all year. And I hit a bad shot on 9, but I knew my short game could hold or help me. And then I hit some great short game shots in the back 9 and then hit some good iron shots. And that 3 wood was obviously big, but that whole 8 was really the turning point, at least for me mentally. And that's when I think John and we look back and we go, yep, that's when we won the tournament.
Yeah, you won the tournament. That's historical. I mean, that's forever. Your name's on that trophy.
I know.
It's just amazing.
Well, with that said, the cool thing for me and knowing how much I love short game and how much I love to practice it, it was pretty cool to win the tournament with my short game. All year, my iron game had been incredible, and my ball striking, that's what everyone was talking about. My stats went from being 170th to 30th or whatever it is, and I gained so much, and everyone, kind of gawks over my ball striking because I hit it far, I hit it straight, I can hit all the shots. But it was fun to win the tournament with not having that and going back to how I used to play, which was I don't care where the ball goes, as long as I have a shot, I'm still in the hole. And that's essentially what I did for the last 11, 12 holes. And for me, that was fun. I mean, showing off my short game, the up and down on 8, the up and down on 9, the amazing flop shot on 11, and then the up and down on 17. It's like that was really fun for me.
Well, it was fun for me too, because a lot of people ask me what's great about Wyndham, and I talk to them about, I mean, you've got a ton of good things going on in your game, but the most underrated part that really people don't talk about very often is your ability around the greens. And it was always a unique technique you used, different. There were so many things you just kept chipping at gimme. And I kept on saying, well, there's nothing I can say. This guy knows what he's doing. I think you're third on tour from 20 to 30 yards scrambling on the PGA Tour this year. That would say a lot that you're able to get around the green. You're going to get that ball up and down a lot. So it is cool that you won it with your scrambling, with your up and down game, the short game that's been so amazing. But I also know there was something about your body language that final round that I noticed you were ready to win a major. I was wondering what you thought was the turning point. And yes, I agree, number 8, because you didn't lose the tournament on 8. You kept the tournament going. But your body language was amazing. And your body language in the last couple of years that I've watched has improved, definitely this year, compared to what it used to be. It's like you're always in the mix. You got a chance. Is that part of that mental aspect you've been working on? Is it manifesting itself in what I see in the body language?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's actually something I've worked on. I've worked on this idea of looking up. Sometimes when things get bad, I look down and I think too inwardly and I get very tunnel focused. And it's sometimes great to just look up and look around and see where you are. Be thankful for where you are. It's amazing when you have gratitude and you're thankful for the moment you're in, how whatever you're feeling can kind of, it lessens and makes it less significant. And you kind of you just have this way better perspective on things. And then smiling. I mean, it's one thing that I struggle doing because I'm such a competitor. It's hard for me to smile sometimes. And that's another thing I've worked on, is to smile, to enjoy it. And so I've worked on those things for sure. And then obviously it is amazing having the cameras on you does help a lot. It's kind of funny, but when the cameras aren't on you and you don't have anyone following you, it's a lot easier to get into bad habits because no one is watching, and you can act a certain way, and you don't have to put on a show as much. But when everyone's there watching you and the cameras on you, it really does help you get into a better frame of mind, because people are watching you. So yeah, I definitely think the way I've carried myself is helped a lot, both inwardly and outwardly.
It's very noticeable when you see it on TV, because I haven't got to see you play in person in quite a long time. But okay, the big elephant in the room, the Ryder Cup. I mean, it's next week, and they just an hour or two ago announced the other 6 picks of your teammates that are going to be on that team. So I'm just going to announce the team so we've got it for the record here, and let's just talk about your week coming up. Scotty Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Patrick Cantlay, Brian Harmon, Xander Schauffele, Max Homa, Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Colin Morikawa, Ricky Fowler, and Sam Burns. That is a great, great young team. Are you as excited as I think you are?
Yeah, I mean, it's from everything I've heard, from anywhere from Tiger Woods to Jordan Spieth to Zach Johnson to Davis Love to Xander to anyone. They go, hey, and even Rory, to winning your own individual tournaments is number one for every player, right? And their accomplishments. But they go number two, and it's a close second, is every Ryder Cup they play in. And that's universal amongst all the top players, as they say, yes, my win here or my major here, they all say that's amazing and that's something they always dreamed about. But almost nothing compares to the Ryder Cup. And I think it comes back to a little bit of the college golf atmosphere of having a team, and playing for something greater than just yourself is always better than just playing for yourself. And then just the atmosphere. And they say it's so amazing and it's so much fun. And everyone talks about how you feel like a kid again, to where you just have fun, and it's not so much, you're not so consumed by every shot and the stats and individual this and that. You're playing for something greater than yourself. And I think that's what's so appealing to me about the Ryder Cup. And I'm super excited. We have a young team, which I think is great. So I just can't wait to represent the United States and play with those guys.
It'll be here before you know it, and it's in Rome, Italy. I know that after the U.S. Open, you went to Italy for a wedding of a friend. You didn't happen to sneak over there and see the golf course, did you?
No, I didn't have my golf clubs. I was
Okay.
after the U.S. Open. I was like, hey, I want to enjoy time away from golf. I want to enjoy friends, and I just I had fun. So no, I did not sneak away and go see it.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to check. I mean, you are a pretty prepared kind of guy, but
Yeah,
I also think somebody that runs hot like you, that's put so much of yourself into every single competitive round, probably needs a break now and again. I mean, it only makes sense. Are you still that way?
yeah. I mean, that's one thing I've learned to do over these 5-6 years as a professional, that I was not good at in college. Is I never was able to take a break in college. I just always was thinking, okay, someone's working harder than me, and I can't allow that to happen, which is a great mindset to have. But in this game being so much more mental than any other game, you really do have to get away. You have to have a life outside of golf. You have to give your mind a break. And so I've learned to do that. And so, I'm just after the Tour Championship. I mean, I'm going to Colorado tomorrow, and I'm going to go fish, hang out with friends and family, not golf, and have a mental reset so that when I do come back, I am refreshed and I want to be there versus, feeling like I am just mentally exhausted.
Yeah, the last 2 completely dominant players in the history of the game, Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus, they did the best job maybe of anybody of taking that time off. When they got away from the game, they got away from the game. And were able to get recharged, refreshed, and ready to go. They did put a lot of mental energy into competing, and I know you do as well. So, what would you tell 14-year-old Wyndham Clark? 14-year-old Wyndham Clark, what would your best advice be for him to get where you are today? And this advice is for any 14-year-old that's trying to
Yeah.
do what you did.
I think the thing that would be most beneficial for young 14-year-old Wyndham Clark would have been probably if I could have had a long-term perspective. I think that would have helped the most, and know that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think I always was in that mentality of it's a sprint, and looking at, when I was 14, Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas and a few other guys were dominating junior golf. And I was a little jealous, pissed that I wasn't doing that, thought I should be doing that. And that was all, and then that lasted for a long time, where I just felt like I underperformed, and I didn't look at the overall body of work and how, hey, maybe 20 years from now, that might be something different. And it's amazing having that long-term perspective and believing that, okay, if I continue to do the things that make me successful and just have little victories in these moments, then you look back and, 10 years from now, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, where you are. And, I think that is something I've learned in these last, for sure in these last kind of 10, 12 months as I've worked on my mental game a lot more. And I can see how before I was the only reason my potential wasn't coming out. And I was holding myself back because I was so focused on winning. I was so focused on results. I was so focused on how I'm not where I want to be and how other players are winning and having success, and I'm not. And when I made that switch and said, okay, I'm going to have little victories, and eventually I'm going to start hopefully have the success that I want. When I made that switch, I started playing more free golf and then the results took care of themselves.
That's great. That's hard to tell a freshman in college, because he thinks he's got to travel this week to Olympic Fields. He's got to, it's not about that. It's about you continually getting better and better and better. And the long-term perspective is better. What's one thing golf-wise that you would have benefited from, that you would love to have known before you got to college, that would have benefited you? Something you could have done in the golf world you wish you would have known that would have made college golf easier? Is there anything?
No, there definitely is. I'm trying to think of probably the most important. I mean, there's a lot of things. I think, I look at junior golf and even college golfers. It's amazing how immature they are in the golf game. Not immature, in their social life or how they think, but how they are in strictly just golf sense. And how I was the same. You're concerned about distance, or you're concerned about all these different things, and when you get to professional golf, you see guys that didn't play at big schools, maybe didn't even go to college. You see guys that did play at big schools. There's the guys that weren't good in college or junior golf that now are good in professional golf, and they all are from different walks of life. And the one common denominator is they all own their game and they know how to get the ball in the hole. And that's what I've learned, is these guys really know their game. And what I mean by knowing their game is they know how far every club goes. They're not trying to hit it farther than other guys. I fell into that. They just said, hey, my 7-iron goes this distance, and that's how far it goes, and I need to get good at that. They know their golf swing. They know when it gets off what to do, and if they don't know specifically, they know who to go to, and they stick with that. They're not constantly searching. And then they know their weaknesses and strengths. And the biggest thing that I found on tour is a lot of guys actually focus so much more on their strengths. It's very unique. You think they would focus on their weaknesses, and they do, but they go, you know what? If I continue to be the best putter and continue to do that and just get a little bit better in my weaknesses, but really continue to putt great, that's what makes me successful, and that's why I'm here. If I'm the best driver in the world, but maybe not a good wedge player, you continue to be the best driver in the world and just get a little bit better every year in your wedge game. It's amazing how much better that is than neglecting the driving, focusing on the wedge part. You get only 10% better in your wedge game, but you get 10% worse on your driving. That's when guys start losing their PGA Tour card. So, just little things like that. It's amazing how precise and how good guys are now. And so coming into college, you don't think about that stuff, and you don't have your identity as a golfer. And you look at other people and you try to emulate them, and just owning who you are and what's made you successful is probably the biggest thing that I'd say professional golfers do.
I think it takes a lot of self-belief to own what you do too, instead of trying to copy what everybody else is doing. You said something earlier about gratitude. You mentioned it a couple of times. And knowing you, I firmly believe that gratitude comes from your faith. And so just tell me how your faith has played a part in this journey, because there's been some lows, there's been some low points in this journey of yours, but how has faith guided that journey for you?
I mean, I think regardless of what their beliefs are, I think you got to believe in a higher power. And for me, that's believing that Jesus is my savior. And with that, in Christianity, doesn't just because you believe and accept that and you receive that grace and that love doesn't mean you're going to have a perfect life and you're going to start having success and make more birdies and win tournaments. That's not promised. But what's great about the faith is you start to, you start living out what God wants you to be and who he wants you to be. And when things aren't going that way, you have someone and something to rely on, and you have this love that's unconditional. And so when things aren't going well and when things are going well, you're thankful for them because you know that something greater is happening. And, in my life, I've had a lot of bad things happen and a lot of downs. And I think if I didn't have the faith, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you, and I wouldn't have the success I've had on the PGA Tour, because I probably would have quit golf. I would have, I was angry at God for a long time, and, losing my mom and having tough things in my family going on and a broken home, and a lot of people in my family passed away from cancer, and, maybe not having the success I wanted in golf, and not living up to maybe my expectations, other people's expectations for a long time, it just all led to where I was very angry. But through that, God really worked on me and really softened my heart to where I can sit here today and go, I'm thankful for those moments, because it made me rely more on him and trust in his path and his direction for my life and not mine. And it's amazing to look and come full circle, that, sure, I wanted to win and have success early on, but I think when I fully surrendered my golf, now everything it's so much greater because I appreciate it. And I'm just so thankful. And so when I play golf, you have this gratitude that, all right, well, it's so fortunate that I get to do this. I'm doing the sport that I love the most. There's no other place I'd rather be than doing what I'm doing. And I have someone that loves me regardless of my performance. And when you have that, you get this sense of freedom and joy that you're performing for him. And regardless if it's good or bad, he loves you. And, this life is temporary, but, your soul and your relationship with him is eternal. So it's amazing living in that gratitude, grateful mindset in life. It makes life more enjoyable, and you're just constantly more happy, and you're not constantly comparing yourself. And yeah, it's just a better way to live. And I'm in the part now where I'm enjoying a lot of the fruits of all of those tough times, and now is a happy fun time. But that makes you enjoy it even more because I've been in the crap, and and so now I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I can see God's hand in all the things in these last 10, 12 years in my whole life, leading to where I am now. And then obviously the next 10, 15, 20 years of my golf career and what that looks like. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that answers it very well said. I mean, gratitude is a wonderful thing, and we're all Christians are grateful to have a Lord and Savior, and you just spelled that out beautifully. Just really have one more thing, and I know you probably expected me to ask this question, but your mom was always really proud of you. She always was, and even during those dark times when you weren't playing well or didn't have it. But what would make her most proud today if she was here, and not just a U.S. Open trophy, which I know she's proud of? What else do you think might make her really, really proud of you today?
Probably that exact thing I just touched on. I would say, I think a parent's love for their children is the closest thing that God has love for us, which is an unconditional love. And pretty much regardless of what you do, they're happy for you and love you and care for you. And they want to see you succeed. But I think they really want you to succeed in life more than anything, and to have happiness and joy, and seeing that their kid is happy and loving what they're doing brings the most joy, I think, to a parent. And so for my mom, I think she always wanted that in my life. She wanted me to have that love and joy in anything I'm doing. And so, if she was here, I think she would definitely say that she just loves that I'm doing what I love, and that I know why I'm doing it, and that I'm doing it for a greater purpose than just my own accolades and my own success and wealth or whatever it is. And so, I think that's what my mom always tried to instill in me. And it's great to sit here and reflect on it and believe that a lot of that has happened in my life. So
That's wonderful. Well, Wyndham, I am so excited for you. I'm thrilled. Having been a little bit of a part of this journey way back when, but I've always supported you and always watched, and to actually get to watch you play in a Ryder Cup is going to be an absolute joy for me. Is your dad going to be able to be over there in Rome?
yeah, he's going.
Good. I think Randall should be. That'd be wonderful. So best of luck to you and the American side, obviously. Would love to see Go America, and just have a great week. Enjoy every minute of it, and I know you will.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you doing this. It's fun being on here and hanging with you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again.